Welcome. So today I wanted to talk about what it is like to scale in e-commerce using email marketing in 2025. So it's just going to be a bit of a yap session off the dome. I've got a few points here that I want to talk about, but we're working with about 60 different e-commerce brands at the moment, generating over $30 million a year from email marketing alone. And I guess throughout that, you notice a few things from working with particular brands and seeing the way they operate and seeing how different brands do things differently, what works, what doesn't work, strengths and weaknesses. Collectively, I'd say based on that, the brands we're working with at the moment are doing well over a combined 200 mil a year in sales through e-commerce. So, or somewhere in that ballpark. So there's a lot of knowledge to tap into here and a lot to lean into. So, but I mean, I'm going to talk about email marketing in particular and how these brands are using it to the best of their advantage. So the first thing to realize is that your emails probably suck. And I don't say that to be rude, but this year already I've probably audited 100 different email accounts from our current clients to prospects to people who come through and apply for free audits with us. And I've looked at a lot of different accounts, and the truth is, before someone works with a good agency or a good freelancer, or unless they have someone in house who has really high level email marketing knowledge, is the truth is their emails probably suck. Like the flows are missing. They're not built to completion. I mean, key flows are missing. That is, the flows that do exist aren't built to completion. Campaign cadence is low. Designs aren't great. Like, there's a lot of different holes. And the thing with email marketing in general, and especially for e-commerce, is you only really need to improve by 10% across all those different areas to have really significant impacts on revenue generated. So like, if you can improve your flows by 10%, improve your designs by 10%, improve your copywriting by 10%, improve your segmenting knowledge by 10%, this will really snowball and create a system where you can generate mass amounts of revenue from your email marketing. Now, that sort of ties into my next point, which is it's a pretty simple formula to take you to a good email setup. Like, you don't need to have a really cracked and complex email marketing setup. Like, you don't need tons of different live flows. Like, for example, I audited an 8-figure brand the other day. We work with them now to this date, and they had, and this was back in December, mind you, so maybe not quite the other day, but they had about 50 active flows made by different agencies over the time, and 45 of them weren't generating any revenue. So oftentimes, going more complex and going more niche and trying to really go down the rabbit hole of complexity is just going to shoot yourself in the foot and stop you from ever driving real results. And so I think it's really key to note that if you can do all the simple things, all the core things to a really high level, you're probably going to get better results than if you try focus on being super complex. So that applies to your segmenting too. Like, if you're someone who sells multiple SKUs, for example, fashion, say you sell men's and women's, even as simple as, like, so many brands will try segment, like, oh, I only want to send this campaign to men and I only want to send this campaign to women. But you often just exclude keen buyers. Like, for example, say you have a campaign about your best menswear. If you just send that to men and you don't send that to any women because you're assuming none of the women are interested in this content, well, what about all the girlfriends, wives, partners, mothers who are going to buy products from the men's range for people who they love? Like, bang, all of a sudden you've just cost yourself all these sales by trying to be more complex than you need to be. So uh, broader is better and simpler is better. Focus on doing the fundamentals to a really high level. Now, another sort of hot topic at the moment is, what email platform should you use? 100% without a doubt, Klaviyo. There are other tech softwares that are on the up, like things like Omnisend, Yotpo. They're all competing pretty hard in the market to try beat Klaviyo. But what they're doing is they're competing on price. And when you compete on price alone, you sacrifice in the tech. Like, if price is your only lever and you're like, look, we're cheaper, well, it probably means they have worse tech, and unfortunately that they do. Klaviyo has such a head start with making really good tech at the moment, and the tech with plugins and integrations with Shopify and the tracking capabilities are just better than everyone else. So until those companies can improve their tech and become a real leading product in the market, like, moving from Klaviyo might save you money on your bill, but it's going to cost you money in sales. So that's one of the probably key points of this video, is to keep using Klaviyo even in light of what's happening. Now, One tip, if you're someone who's struggling to make email content, make sure you're aligning this email content with what is pumping on ads. So it's important to have your ads team speaking to your email team, or if that's not possible or you think it's too much, at least you need to be, as the founder, the intermediary between these two agencies. If something is ripping on ads, or if something is, there's a particular angle or a particular product which is scaling really well, focus on using this in your email content as well. You really want to double down on this. It's obviously resonating with the market for a reason on ads. So we can safely assume that this is probably going to resonate with the people in our email list. So at the very least, test this. At the very least, test this, aligning your email content with what is pumping on ads, which brings me to my final point of the truth. You need good ads in the first place. If you're not having profitable ads, or you're not profitable on your ads, it's going to be really hard to scale on email, because just simply put, you're not going to be driving enough quality traffic to grow your email list in the first place. And if you're not growing your email list, you're shrinking your email list. And if your email list is shrinking, well, it's not an asset to you, and it's going to continue to drive worse and worse performance going forward. Now, let's chat about a few myths in the email world at the moment. Like I said, doubling down on this one, you need a complex setup. You don't need personalization. Let's reiterate that. You don't need crazy personalization. I'm going to call it crazy personalization, because there's elements of personalization which are going to be really beneficial. But for now, like, crazy personalization just ends up shooting yourself in the foot. It creates more work for a disproportionate upside. Like, you might put in 50% more work trying to make your email marketing as personalized as possible for a 5% upside. And that's just a waste of time. You might as well put that 50% extra work into literally anything else and get a proportional upside to the additional benefit you're putting in. Now, do or die mentality. Don't know if this is the best way to describe it, but essentially your email marketing doesn't need to be 0 or 100. From what I see with a lot of brands is like, their email marketing is completely useless and it sucks, or it's really, really good and they're paying top dollar to make sure it's really optimized. There is a middle ground. If you're someone who's not ready to bring on an agency, or if you're someone who wants to keep chipping away at things yourself, like I said earlier in the video, you just need to focus on getting 10% better across the board. You don't need to have you don't need to go from 0 to 100, essentially. Like, it's not have really bad flows or have immaculate flows. It's not send no campaigns or send 12 campaigns. There's a middle ground. And in that middle ground is focusing on just becoming better each and every week. It's that mentality of just slow, steady improvements. If you're someone with really bad flows, focus on just fixing one a week. The number one reason when I talk to founders who have bad email marketing, and the number one reason that they say their email marketing is bad, is because they don't have the time, or it's really overwhelming and they don't know where to start. So they don't start at all. What you should be doing is picking a flow to work on each week and just chipping away at that. Chip away or making it better. Run some A/B tests, run some different content angles, write some different copy. Whatever you do, just chip away slowly. You don't need to go 0 to 100. 0 to 10 is a good start. 10 to 20 is a better start. And then from there, you can start to snowball. Now, the last thing to note in saying that is email is not particularly high leverage for a founder. There was a video I made, well, I was on a podcast with Blue Sense Digital, and we talked about what is being a narrative that's being pushed in the market in e-commerce at the moment, which is that agencies are a bad investment. Now, the alternative to that means that these founders now either need to A, do the work themselves, or B, bring in-house marketing managers, which for most of the time are not cost effective. So it's not in a founder's best interest to be writing email copy or creating email flows. Like, if you're the founder of your company and you're trying to scale beyond 7 figures, why would you waste your time writing email copy? Like, it's not a good use of your time. You should be focusing on developing product, building partnerships, installing A players into your team to really find true leverage. Like, you really need to be focusing on leverage to differentiate yourself, because right now it's never been easier to start an ecom brand. The barrier to entry is low. Products are popping up everywhere that are the same as competitors. And if you're spending your time writing email copy, like, that's not where you're going to find the differentiation in your brand. Like, having dialed email marketing is important. Having dialed ads is important. But as the founder, it's important to grow your brand for what it is, being your brand, not do this nitty gritty in the weeds work. It is not high leverage. So, I mean, that sort of sums up my videos for today about what it's like to scale e-commerce with email marketing in 2025. It's relatively simple. Do the basics to a really high level and do them well. Focus on getting better once a week, 10% improvements. Use Klaviyo and make sure your ads are pumping. That's all you need to do. Realistically, like, you could get your email channel off the ground with as little as 5 hours a week if you're starting from scratch. And then from there, you just keep building it up until you're in a position to install some A players in the team who really have the email experience. But scaling e-commerce right now, differentiation is the key. So as much as you want this email stuff to be good, if you're the founder who can't hire anyone else, like I said, focus on getting slightly better each week, but you want to be putting most of your time into finding leverage within the business, finding differentiation, and developing your products. Hope this helps. There'll be some free resources in the description.